But I want to take a few moments and speak to you a little bit about what is happening here, so we understand why is the work that is being done here right now. Why is it's so prophetic? Why am I the one who's calling upon this right now, about the unification and union that is happening all throughout the world right now, as we're preparing final Geulah for the coming of the Messiah. In the beginning of the portion here, Parashat Bechukotai, that we're finishing the book of Vayikra, God affirming what He started in the beginning of the portion. And it says in verse 3, and I'm reading to you in Hebrew, Ve'im bechukotai telchu, ve'et mitzvototai tishmeru, ve'asitem otam. Now it says here, if you go in the chukim, okay, which translated in general as law or statutes, and you partake in my mitzvot, if you guard those mitzvot, and you are to do what? You are to do them. This is important. Do we want to keep those things? Because He said, then I'm going to give you the rain, I'm going to give you the fruit, I'm going to give you all of those things in the seasons. Okay? Now you have to understand something. God said, I'm going to give you the Torah, and the mitzvot is the remedy. Part of partaking in Torah and partaking in mitzvot and doing those things is in order to keep things in our life. You keep them in order. You know, we need order. We want our life to be in order. We want our families to be in order. We want our relationship to be in order. We want all this to be. The Torah come to put fences. In the beginning of Pirkei Avot, it says, "V'asitim seyag laTorah." Put a fence to the Torah. Why do we need the fences? We need the fences around our life. Yeshua also spoke about the fences. He said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." And He said, the path is very what? Is a very narrow path. So the path is a narrow path. Now, I want to talk to you in this very, very special message called the narrow path, about the most significant and the most important path that you have to listen to and take into heart today. In this portion here today, God is speaking to them about the narrow path in Bechukotai, in very things. And He says something important. When there is a narrow path, listen to verse 12. He says, "Vehitalachti betochechem v'hayiti lachem le'elokim v'atem tiyu li le'am." I love this. If you're going to have this path, and by the way, He says in this path, I want to go back again to verse 3. He said, in order to do it, it is not an exercise of the mind. It is the exercise of the action. Ve'asitem otam. When you see this word ve'asiya, the doing, the action, the doing, the entire thing here about chukotai, about Torah. Torah is not an exercise of the mind, beloved. Mitzvot is not an exercise of the mind. It is an exercise of the heart that will transform themselves into an exercise of a physical doing. We are here right now in Paris, and you hear my voice. My voice have taken some serious abuse these last few days, and the reason is because I've been busy doing. And I want to tell you something. The work here in Europe have started. I can speak about it. I can speak about it not just in Europe. I can speak about Ahavat Ami International Yeshivat Shuvu. It's starting with nothingness. Everybody need to understand it. In 2014, this work started with nothingness. No resources, no material, nothing, absolutely nothing. But I have taken this word seriously, ve'asitem otam. And I'm telling you, the reason that we're able to do all of those things is because there is an element of asiyah. I tell it to my students who are coming to Yeshiva, you're not coming here just to receive. You're coming to give. You're coming to be part of the Asiyah. Because when you're becoming part of the Asiyah, so write yourself in your note, Torah equal Asiyah. Torah is about doing. Okay, it's not about thinking. It's not about emotions. You can be hyper emotional. And I'm not saying emotions are not, yeah, we need to have kavanah. Kavanah and emotions are not the same thing. See, emotions can go up and down, up and down, up and down. But God looks for the steady eddies. He looks for those who have an intentional kavanah. kavanah. And even to the point that this law says the following. Hasidut teaches, it says that a tefillah, a prayer without kavanah, without the intention, is like a body without a spirit. So in essence, you can have a wonderful intention and wonderful thoughts, and it's not going to be enough. And that's what God is speaking here today. He says, let me tell you why you should do bechukotai. Are you ready? Are you ready? This is why God says, I want you to pay attention to bechukotai. Why? Because if you do the bechukotai, listen to what it says, verse 12, Ve'italachti betochem, I will walk inside of you, והייתי לכם לאלוהים, and I will be to you God, ואתם תהיו לי לעם, and you will be people. Okay? And he said, ולא תגעל נפשי אתכם, which means I will not spurn you, I will not be disgusted with you, I will want this fellowship, I would want the lechadodi, I would want to be part of you and tabernacle with you. So how does God know that we're saying we want to tabernacle with him? How does he know? You see, because God have a love language too. Everybody need to understand, God have a love language. And the love language of God is the love language of mitzvot. When we perform mitzvot, just 100 meters from here, the Lubavitcher Rebbe synagogue was where he started. And matter of fact, in the end, I'm going to show you a little clip. I hope it will be touching to you. And I had a chance to meet the rabbi that's running this synagogue, where the Lubavitcher Rebbe started before he even went to the land of Israel, before he went there. And I asked him, so why are you here? What's your purpose? What's your purpose? He said, very simple. For a Jew to do a mitzvah. If a Jew does a mitzvah, even one Jew does one mitzvah, I have brought the Messiah to the world. And this concept is found right here in this Torah portion. And he says, listen to this. It says, this is amazing. So how do we do it? He says, listen, you shall eat, this is amazing. You shall eat the old grain, the chukim, the mishpatim, the Torah. And you shall have a clear out the old to make what? To make a room for the new. To make a room for the new. He's saying something amazing. He said, eat the old, but eat the old in a way that you have a room to make for the new. Wait. If I'm eating the old, how can I make a room for the new? Let's understand it. ואכלתם ישן נושן וישן מפי חדש תוציאו. What it actually says, as you eat the old, something new have to come from inside of you. This is the secret of the Torah. This is the real secret of the Torah, beloved. We need to consume ourselves with the chukim. We need to consume ourselves with the mishpatim. We need to consume ourselves with the mitzvot in a way that the thing that will come out of us are the new things. So what are we doing? Well, what have we done here? Yes, we've done the same thing we've done. We've brought a Torah revival. We did shacharit. We gave a midrashim. We've done all things. But let me tell you something. What came out of this is something completely new. And that is the thing. He says, Ve'az Yashir Moshe. On Exodus 55, he's singing an old tune, but he's going to sing it in the future with in a new way. It's like, when you go and do a song and you do a remake of a song, this is amazing. And this is what the Torah is telling us. It says, listen, eat the old, but make a room to bring out of you the new. Sometimes we're so consumed ourselves with the old that we forget about this and nothing new is coming out. So we must make sure that something new happening. And how we would know there's something new happening? Verse 12, I will be able to walk inside of them. We don't want to Judaize you, friends. We don't. But we want you to eat the old, because in the old there is enough nutrition. But if we know how to yield the old, how to partake of Torah, how to partake in mitzvot, if we know how to do those things, something new will be birthing out. How ironic it is that I'm standing here next to this famous store called Shir Chadash, a new song, Psalm 149. Shir Adonai, Shir Chadash. Well, is it a new song? Well, it's an old song that is sang in a new way. And this is the difference between Messianic Judaism, let's say, to an Orthodox Judaism that is stuck in the old and the old. Most of the Jewish people do not look for the new. They don't expect it. They don't believe in the coming of the Mashiach. They're not even looking for it. We don't talk about Mashiach. So what it is for us, he says, listen, he said, if you do those things, I will walk in you. And what he says, and I will renew the covenant. But then in verse 14, he's saying to us, wow, if you don't do those things, if you do not partake in the old, if you don't partake in the chukotai and the mitzvotai, guess what? All things will start to happening. The plague and the famine and the wars and the rumors of fraud, to the point that God himself said there will be no food in the land. There will be a famine. There will be a famine in the land because you have broken the chukotai. This is very important for us to understand. Now, how do we protect? Remember what I told you in the beginning? At the beginning of the portion, he said, you are to protect. You are to protect my mitzvah. You are to protect my mitzvah. How do we protect his mitzvah? Listen to this. This is very important. How do we protect in the mitzvah? In verse 37, and I'm going to leave you with this thought. He says in Hebrew, "Ve'kashlu ish bechichav ki mifnei cherev verodefehen ve'lo tiyeh lahem tkuma lifnei oivechem." With nobody pursuing, they shall stumble over each other as before the sword. I want to talk about this. Our organization is being attacked in a way that you cannot imagine. And the attacks, believe it or not, is not from Orthodox Jews. We work just great with every Jewish person. The most dangerous type of attacks are the attacks that are coming. Look what Hebrew says here. Ish be'achiv. From inside. From within, as it's become, is the sword coming out. And then he said, nobody pursuing anything, so that will be what? V'lo yeh lachem tkuma. To the point that the enemy come and destroy us from within. Everybody need to understand this. Everybody need to understand this. Torah is about unity. This weekend we stood there in Paris, France. And we have people coming from all over Europe to experiencing the move of God. And friends, how did it all start? How did it happen? It's happened because one person, two people, myself and Rabbi Emmanuel, decided to have unity. You following what I'm telling you? Unity built, disunity destroy. If you build a relationship that based upon the chukah, upon the mishpat, upon the Torah, you will be able to build things that are bigger than yourself. But it says, look what it says then in verse 38, but you will perish among the nation, and the land of your enemies will consume you. Why are they consuming us? Why are we being consumed? Because the enemies? Not because of the enemies. We are being consumed because our sins toward one another. This is very important for all of you to understand, that is happening because of what we are doing to destroy one another. What's the upshot here of the Torah? What the Torah want to remind us? Because it's in verse 42, and I will remember my covenant of Yaakov and so forth. In the end of book of Vayikra, God come to remind us that there is a very narrow road, a very narrow bridge. Rabbi Nachman, of course, sing the song, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od. Okay, there's a very narrow bridge. The narrow bridge is a bridge that you have to understand something. God wants to travel in this bridge with us. He wants to do it with us. So what do we have to do? We have to, number one, take the old, consume the old. Don't get rid of the old. If you remove it, you know why we're being attacked right now? People are offended when we teach Torah. I'm going to tell you flat out. People wrote me, some Messianic leaders, we are offending you teaching Torah, and even worse, that you're teaching it to Gentiles. God help them. If we don't do those things, if we don't teach Torah and there is no chukah, God cannot do a tabernacle with us. He cannot go in the road with us. He cannot do any of those things with us. Everybody need to understand that's number one. Number two, we need to strengthen the foundation of the road, the foundation of the bridge. How do we do it? It's only through unity. It's only through brotherly love. It's only through relationships. Because the second we don't do those things, look what's happened in the text. We are stumbling on each other's sin. The brother's sin become my sin because I am the one who sinned. And so we need to develop our voot. We need to develop accountability. We need to develop responsibility and a culture of honor. A culture of honor inside the Messianic Jewish movement. And in that, God will tabernacle with us. I hope that you're ready to travel this narrow bridge together with us at Ahavat Amim Ministries. Now I promise you something very special. I was thinking about this. Just a few meters from me, I was allowed to take my students inside the Lubavitcher synagogue and to hear some of the story of Arevut, how one Jew, his name Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, stood there and took in under him a lot of Jews during the war to protect them. And that was the only building that was not opened up here that stays secure. And I was thinking about it a lot in the context of our message. Is our heart, as who we are, is like this refuge for our brothers to come in. So we will no longer say, Vekashlu ish be'avonotav. On the opposite, we will provide a place of refuge to one another. Check out this video. God bless you. Good Shabbos, Shabbat, Shalom.